Hello and welcome to this pandemic update video for New York State for October 12th, Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. So starting off here with the community transmission map, you can see New York State for almost every county. We can zoom this in more. You can see New York State for almost every county is at high levels of transmission except for Hamilton County, Schuyler County, and right in here around Queens is at substantial transmission, but the rest of the state is at high levels of transmission. Let's head on over to the New York State dashboard. So New York State today reported 3,910 cases. The positivity today was 5.6%. Now coming over to hospitalizations, and let's start out with hospital admissions. And this is something that's deeply concerning. Taking a look at the hospital admissions in New York State, you will see here, today there were 1,418 hospital admissions added. That is the highest total since going all the way back to January of 2022, January of this year. So it's the highest it has been in a very long time. Part of that is because it was a holiday weekend, and Monday was a federal holiday, and it hasn't been updated in several days. But if you look here, there's been other federal holidays, and it has not been this high whatsoever. So even if you were to X that out and the report was yesterday, it still would have been the highest report since last winter, which is deeply concerning. Let's go to current hospitalizations and ICU admissions. And look at this. Hospitalizations significantly rose over the last several days to 2,658. The previous report was 2,455. So that is a rise of by 200. And if we go back here, 2,658 is now the highest hospitalizations since May. And it is on pace to pass the hospitalizations of May. And what's driving this wave is pretty much let's go to the variant proportion map here. It's pretty much a combination of variants. And if we take a look at the region for New York, which is region 2, and mind you, this is coupled with Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Why, I don't know. You have the BA.5 variant. You have 4.6, which is rising. You have BF.7, which is rising. You have BA.2.75, which is rising and is now up to 3.1%. And you also have somewhat of BA.4, but BA.4 is going down and ending. BA.5 still is in heavy existence, but it's slowly dropping. So 4.6, BF.7, and 2.75 are the main culprit of this wave. Even though they're not dominant yet, they're on the way of eventually becoming dominant, and BA 4.6 would become dominant first. So you're seeing just a wide mixture of variants, which is causing this massive surge in hospitalizations. I don't even want to say uptick anymore, because it is just continuously going up, and it's on pace to pass the spring peak and probably going to head towards somewhere of the levels of last winter if things don't slow down relatively soon. So let's go region by region. First off, starting with the capital region for hospitalizations. And you will see here in the capital region, they are now up to 156 people hospitalized. Let's go to the central region. We're just going to go through them all here. Central region, now up to 140 people hospitalized. And what's interesting about that, the central region is about to pass, or actually did just pass, its spring peak. How about the Finger Lakes region? The Finger Lakes is now up to 327 people hospitalized. Hasn't quite passed the spring peak yet. How about Long Island? Long Island is generally about the same as they were with the spring peak, 431 people in the hospital, and spring peak was at 490. How about the Mid-Hudson region? The Mid-Hudson region is now at 273 people in the hospital. Their spring peak was 274, so just short of it. They'll probably pass it in the coming days. How about the Mohawk Valley? Mohawk Valley is definitely past the spring peak. They have 90 people in the hospital. Spring peak was around 71. New York City, this is a big one. New York City is at 907 people in the hospital. Their summer peak was actually higher than this, and their summer peak was higher than the spring peak. But this is something we're watching. New York City could start rising soon, and let's take a look at the admissions. As you can see here, the admissions in New York City definitely are starting to rise now, so that's something of concern. North Country admissions are rising big time, and here's the hospitalizations in the North Country. North Country has 64 people in the hospital. Their spring peak was at 71. They're past their summer peak, so they're probably on pace to pass the spring peak relatively soon. Here's the Southern Tier region. Southern Tier region, 118 people in the hospital. Not quite at the spring peak yet, but potentially on pace for it. And here's something else interesting if we look down here. Their ICUs are now up to 9. I mean, that's not a lot, but it is starting to rise, so that's something we have to watch. And now Western New York. Western New York has 152 people in the hospital, and they are well below their spring peak of 261, but it is gradually starting to rise. And also worth noting, they have 15 people in the ICU. Their ICU peak in the spring was at 32, so they're halfway to their spring ICU peak. And let's take a look at the statewide level for ICUs. Currently, 264 people in the ICU. The spring peak for ICUs was, let's see here, was about 254. So the current ICUs are ahead of the spring peak. That's relatively concerning. And coming back and taking a look at the cases, let's go region by region. First off, looking at the capital region. Capital region for cases, it is starting to rise in the capital region. And the positivity rate today in the capital region is 11.1%. And 283 people tested positive. How about Central New York? We're going to go through them all. Central New York, positivity 9.6%, 205 people have tested positive. Finger Lakes region. Finger Lakes region, 259 people positive, 8.7% positivity. Long Island. Long Island, 594 people have tested positive. The positivity is at 5.1%, so they are below the statewide positivity for today. Mid-Hudson Valley. Mid-Hudson Valley is at 484 people positive, 5.6% positivity. Mohawk Valley. Mohawk Valley had just 123 people positive today. They had more in the previous days. And the positivity rate today is at 9.1%, so not enough people are getting tested there. And that's generally the theme across the entire state of New York State, because as we're seeing here, New York State hospitalizations are rising, but the cases are not. Here we go. New York City, 1,444 people tested positive. Positivity rate's 3.9%, so that's well below the statewide number. North Country. North Country today reported 90 people tested positive. Positivity is at 8.1%. Southern Tier region. Southern Tier, 173 people tested positive in the last 24 hours. And 9.8% positivity. Definitely not enough people testing there. Western New York, the last region. Western New York, 255 people tested positive. 9.9% positivity, and now a 10.6% 7-day positive. So overall, what's happening here? It was what we're seeing here in New York State is the hospitalizations are clearly rising much faster than the cases for two reasons. Number one, cases are being missed, and there's just simply not enough testing going on. Number two, it's possible that there could be more with the mixture of variants, and some of these newer variants, there could be more severe cases. And part of that could be caused by low booster uptake. Not enough people are getting boosted. And part of that problem is people who have not had a booster. Let's just say you've had 2 full doses of vaccine, but you haven't taken a booster yet. That's a really long time since you've had any sort of immunity injected into you from the vaccine. So therefore, you're less protected, and you're more likely to have a symptomatic case. Also, with these new variants, we know some of them could be more immune evasive, so they're better at getting through immunity, which could also potentially cause more severe disease, and hence we're seeing a rapid rise in hospitalizations. So this is not a good sign. Remember, New York State is a bellwether state for the rest of the country, and the fact we're already seeing hospitalizations rise faster than the cases in New York State, it's a really bad indicator for the rest of the country. And we're going to have to watch this very closely, because though the cases have leveled off, and let's go back to the cases one last time, though the cases have leveled off here and are actually showing somewhat signs of dropping, the hospitalizations aren't. So this is really a hidden wave when it comes to cases, but it is very clear as day with hospitalizations and hospital admissions, as you saw here, that something serious is going on in New York State, and we're going to have to monitor this closely. The wild card now is how fast does New York State continue to rise? How long do they keep rising without cases rising? Alrighty, thanks for watching this video. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below, and wherever you are in this country or the world, please stay safe and please continue to wear a mask. This is still a very serious situation. Take care.